So I already talked on Patreon at length about quitting my job recently, but I've actually quit two jobs in the past couple of years. In both instances, it was the same thing that drove me to making that decision. And in both cases, the decision was pretty sudden. Not reckless though. Like there's a difference. I think a lot of people characterize the decision to quit your job as reckless and irresponsible, of course, depending on your circumstances. In both cases, I had YouTube to fall back on, right? I was wildly successful out the gate last year, and it made me think that, this would continue on forever. Of course, that wasn't the case. It was irregular, it was unstable, like content creation typically is. And I learned what failure feels like, what subpar delivery and expectations feels like, how it works relating with sponsors and dealing with the pressures of having fans, having subscribers, having people waiting for you to release things, disappointing people, having their expectations not match your agenda or what you want to talk about, what you think is important. And also the comfort that comes along with being successful immediately out the gate and never experiencing what it feels like to have to kind of figure out how to be successful on this platform. The main point of today's video is what jobs do to you, the pressure cooker that they put you inside of, and what effect that has on you over time. I've always been a very prideful person, a very creative person, and I've always put my self actualization at the top of the list of priorities at all times. Throughout my corporate career, I had job after job after job in marketing agencies, specifically as a programmatic advertising expert. I didn't start that way. I started with general ad operations and it got specialized over time. But throughout that entire journey of doing those corporate jobs, from my 9 to 5, I would do that. And from 5 to 9, or realistically 2, 3 in the morning, I worked on music. I worked on marketing, learning Photoshop, learning Pro Tools, eventually picking up a camera to do my own music videos and do that for other people and clients. And so that parlayed into me becoming a professional in two things: making music and making videos. And I fell in love with film to the same extent that music gripped me. To this day, I hear a dope beat and I'm like, I'm ready to write a song. I'm ready to start freestyling a melody together, that type of thing. And I feel like I found my calling. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, but I had a winding road to get there. What jobs do is they apply so much pressure to every aspect of your life and every second of your free time that you feel pulled in multiple directions. You feel an inherent conflict between what drives you or what makes you feel alive, what makes you feel relevant and important to the planet as a whole and to the people you're around in your community. It makes you juxtapose that against what's allowing you to stay alive and what pays your bills. Most people never escape that tug of war, right? It creates pressure, internal pressure that is never able to be released. In my opinion, it's the reason for a lot of the rise of the red pill, the rise of the black pill, the rise of people getting completely tired and wiped out by this system and lashing out at everyone around them and everything around them. I think there are people who find a healthy balance with day jobs, with corporate America, with companies that exist for nothing but to feed investors. Marketing agencies exist for no reason other than to make other companies money and to report week after week. This is how we did last week. These are the metrics that we improved on or didn't improve on, and here's why. And hey, client, please don't fire us. We tried our best, even though the numbers dipped a little bit this week or they don't look as strong as last year. Every week that I had to report that shit, all I could think to myself was this does not matter. None of it matters. I could work in marketing agencies for the rest of my life. I can go back to that job anytime I want. So let's start there. But even if I worked there for 30 more years, what have I done in all those decades of working for somebody else to build somebody else's dream and being undercompensated in the process? What have I done to fuel myself? And what disservice am I doing to myself and to my dreams to give you all of my time every day and not give it to myself? The past 6 months of having a full time job, for a while there, it was a decent balance. I was able to put out my videos and make waves on the YouTube platform while having a job, and everything felt okay. But then my job overstepped. Something about marketing agencies, they have this thing called allocations, where a certain percentage of your time is supposed to be assigned to each account you're on, right? I was on a bunch of major accounts, and the thing that shifted is that my allocation for one of my accounts, which is over major clothing brands like K&G, stuff like that, Men's Warehouse, Joseph A. Bank. I was working with that client, and all of a sudden, not only am I not doing my core job function, I'm switched to like social marketing, which I don't want to do. I don't like social media. I'm gonna make a whole separate video about social media and why I'm not on any of the short form platforms anymore. I'm only on YouTube. Another topic. But all of a sudden, this account that's supposed to take up 45 to 50% of my time is taking over all of my time. And anybody who's worked at marketing agencies will let you know that's how things work. They dominate your time and they don't care. It's like college when a professor gives you homework to the point where it's like, I have other classes, right? That is what I was going through. And I was being trained on things, being taught how to do things, and then like 15 minutes later it's like, oh, by the way, we need you to send this to the client in 15 minutes, the thing we just taught you how to do. And it's, look, I'm a fast learner, but I've also made a lot of mistakes in my corporate career, and I've learned over job after job after job to take my time when I'm learning how to do something, get the fundamentals strong, and then perform. And for them to pressure me like that, leading into Black Friday no less, to crank out these ad campaigns just because they didn't have anybody else, not tell me that they were putting me on this account in the first place, just slide me onto it, knowing how much work it was going to be and knowing how much of a shakeup it was going to be to my routine, is unfair, inappropriate, unacceptable, and grounds for me to reconsider my position here. You fundamentally changed the nature of my job, the job I interviewed for, and then you apply so much pressure to the point where I essentially have to start doing overtime for free. And that's all salaries are. They're a carrot on a stick to make sure you perform beyond what you're getting paid for. Jobs know better. They have whole teams of people that help construct these policies. Unlimited PTO is a scam designed to psychologically manipulate you into taking less PTO. Because if it's infinite, but they have to approve it, is it really infinite? No. And they know that. And studies have shown that people take less PTO when it's unlimited. That's why it's being rolled out so often. Similar with the rest of these tactics, the rest of the things they roll out in the guise of being a employee first or family first company, don't buy into any of it. Companies exist to view you as a unit of economic benefit, for lack of a better word. I needed to reclaim my time. I needed my time back. If I'm going to be underpaid and have to depend on myself anyway to make ends meet, I would rather go all in on something that I control fully and that I actually care about and that I feel makes an impact on people and that people have told me makes an impact on them, than to waste away literally the most important, most productive hours of every single day for y'all. You are not worth it and you do not deserve it. I'm not even gonna go all the way into the passive aggressiveness and the pettiness and coworkers going behind my back to snitch on me in my first week on an account for not doing something at the time they wanted it done because I'm trying to be careful and I'm trying to be thorough. I'm tired, bro. I am more qualified in more areas of life to perform more tasks than everybody at this company. I'm not even bragging on myself. It's a hard fact. I have more skills in more areas than everybody I've ever worked with. And so for me to take that on the chin week after week after week, month after month, year after year, there is a breaking point. And I am always a person who bets on themselves. I always have been. And that doesn't stop now. So it took one meeting where I was being reprimanded for something somebody snitched on me about during the first week on my account. And in the middle of that one-on-one meeting with my coach slash supervisor, I was like, you know what? I'm quitting. This is my last day. And of course, I get the ramifications of that decision. So I sat with it for a little while. I didn't move immediately, but I gave it about 15 minutes. And I had a conversation with my mom, and she helped me consider all the angles. And but ultimately, she supported me. And I think that's the crucial thing. If you feel like you're ready, if you feel like this is something you need to do for yourself, and you have a plan, you have something to do, you have action to take to make sure you can float for however many months or float forever, right? And be successful and build on that, then you need to jump. Now is the time, because if it's not now, it'll be years going by without you actually taking action. Most people hesitate before jumping off that cliff, and most people never actually make the jump. So if I'm here for anything, it's to tell you that if you got a dream, if you got a vision that's clear and articulated, and you're starting to put action into place, or you've been doing it for years like I was, jump. Jump. If you need advice, ask for it. If you need a mentor, ask for it. But you got to stop giving your life to people who will replace you if you die tomorrow. It's a simple calculus to me. These people fundamentally do not care about me. So I'm going to give my time and my energy and my passion and my anxiety and my stress to something that fulfills me on a daily basis and makes me feel whole, makes me feel complete, and makes me feel seen. And I don't mean seen in terms of fame. I let go of trying to be famous a long time ago. And even when I was on the rise last year and people were visibly super excited about everything I released, it did feel like I was like a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? I was one of the more popular black creators in the bread tube space for a chunk of last year. It felt like I was on a literal rocket ship, but fame is fleeting, and it isn't about who you actually are. Like, y'all don't know me. You know what I put out into the world and what I tell you about myself. And so while I appreciate the compliments and whatnot, I'm always keeping it in the lens of you appreciate my work and you appreciate the angles you've seen me from. But you don't know me. You don't know the stress. You don't know the constant anger that I deal with, that I'm constantly suppressing and crafting into, a formula to make sure I'm delivering my thoughts clearly and not letting the anger show as much. But I'm literally always angry, whether it's at the world that I have to deal with, whether it's at the government, politics, whether it's at these goddamn jobs that have stolen my young adulthood for the most part. I'm always angry. And there's times where I'm joyful, and that allows the anger to be channeled in a healthy way because making things makes me happy. So it's the only thing I think there that exists that I can pour myself into fully, and it pours back. It's an incredible feeling that I hope everybody gets to experience. But if there's anything in the world that makes you that happy, and kills your sense of constant anger just a little bit, take the leap. Build the plane on the way down and figure out how to fly it. Because the one thing you will not regret when you're 70 years old looking back is that you took the chance on yourself. My question for you is, would you regret not taking the leap?